When you walk into a room, people notice you for reasons far beyond how you look or what you wear. True magnetism isn't about being the loudest voice in the crowd or having the brightest spotlight shining on you. It's about something quieter, subtler, something that works beneath the surface. The most magnetic people in the world often don't say much, but when they do, their presence alone carries weight. Why? Because they cultivate silent habits that make others want to lean in, listen, and trust. The first silent habit is intentional presence. Think about the last time someone gave you their full attention without rushing, without checking their phone, without letting their eyes drift somewhere else. It made you feel seen, valued, almost as if you mattered more than anyone else in that moment. That's what presence does. It isn't about words, it's about energy, about showing up with undivided attention. People are drawn to those who make them feel significant. In a world full of distractions, the rare individual who practices presence becomes magnetic. The second silent habit is calm confidence. Not arrogance, not dominance, but quiet assurance. This is the kind of confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, the way you respond instead of react, the way you stay grounded even when everything around you feels chaotic. Calm confidence is contagious. People want to be near someone who doesn't get shaken easily because it makes them feel safer too. That's magnetism, creating an invisible force that reassures others without saying a word. Together, these two habits, intentional presence and calm confidence, create a ripple effect. They change how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. When you are fully present, people remember how you made them feel. When you carry calm confidence, people trust you without needing proof. The beauty is, you don't have to push, chase, or try to impress. You simply be, and that silent strength pulls others toward you. So if you want to be magnetic, don't chase attention. Command it silently, and try to be interesting. Be interested. Don't try to look confident, build calm within yourself. Magnetism isn't about noise, it's about stillness. And the quieter the power, the stronger the pull. Faf keynotes of the speech, true magnetism comes from silent habits, not loud displays. Intentional presence makes people feel valued and seen. Calm confidence creates trust and reassurance without words. Magnetism grows when you focus on being, not performing. Quiet strength draws people in more powerfully than attention-seeking. True magnetism comes from silent habits, not loud displays. This idea may feel counterintuitive in a world where noise often dominates. We are constantly surrounded by people trying to get noticed, whether it's through social media posts, flashy clothing, exaggerated gestures, or by speaking louder than everyone else in the room. The message we often receive is that to stand out, you must do more, say more, and push harder. But if you truly observe the people who leave a lasting impression, you'll notice something different. They are not the ones clamoring for attention. They are not the ones shouting to be heard. Their magnetism is quiet, subtle, and rooted in habits that don't need external validation. It's not the noise that makes them stand out. It's the silence, the discipline, and the presence they carry. When we talk about silent habits, we're not referring to passivity or withdrawal. Silent habits are the behaviors, patterns, and choices that speak without words. They are the unspoken cues people pick up on, the way you look someone in the eye when they're speaking, the patience you display when others rush, the steadiness in your body language when chaos surrounds you. These are powerful forms of communication, even though they don't make a sound. Magnetism is about energy, not volume. And energy is transmitted most effectively through subtle actions that others feel, often without even realizing it. Think about a leader you admire. Chances are, it's not their loud speeches or their constant presence on a stage that made you remember them. It's the calm authority they carried, the way they made decisions, the way they seemed to listen with depth instead of simply waiting for their turn to respond. Their magnetism didn't come from demanding attention. It came from earning it silently through how they showed up. We tend to confuse charisma with performance, but true charisma is rooted in authenticity. Authenticity is quiet. It doesn't need to shout because it already resonates. There's a reason why people who rely on loud displays to draw attention rarely sustain it. Flashiness fades quickly. The loudest person in the room may grab your eyes for a few minutes, but once the noise subsides, what remains? Often nothing of substance. On the other hand, the one who carries themselves with silent strength, who doesn't need to prove but simply is, that person stays in your memory long after the moment has passed. Silent habits plant seeds in people's minds, and those seeds grow into trust, respect, and admiration. One of the most fascinating aspects of silent magnetism is how it transcends barriers. Words can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, or even forgotten, but silent habits leave impressions that bypass logic and go straight to emotion. A calm demeanor in the face of tension tells people more about your character than any speech ever could. A willingness to listen deeply tells someone that you value them, and that feeling becomes unforgettable. Silent magnetism works at a level beyond intellect. It works at the level of connection. And connection is the deepest form of influence. We also have to recognize that cultivating silent habits takes discipline. It is much easier to react loudly when provoked, to boast about our achievements or try to dominate a space. Remaining composed, choosing silence over unnecessary words, and focusing on actions over declarations requires strength. Silence is not weakness. It is restraint, and restraint is a sign of mastery. The ones who can hold back their need to prove themselves are the ones who have nothing to fear. That fearlessness expressed silently is magnetic. What makes silent habits so powerful is that they create consistency. Loud displays are situational, they come and go depending on the context. But silent habits, once ingrained, show up everywhere. Whether you are at work with family, among strangers, or even alone, your silent habits remain. They become the invisible thread that ties together your identity, and people recognize that consistency. Others may not be able to articulate it, but they sense it and they are drawn to it. It's the difference between a flickering spotlight and a steady flame. The spotlight shines brightly for a moment and then fades, but the steady flame continues to burn, quietly attracting warmth, seekers again and again. Another reason silent habits make you magnetic is because they create space for others. Loud displays often take up all the oxygen in the room, leaving little space for anyone else to feel seen. But when you practice silence, presence, and subtlety, you invite others into the experience. People feel more comfortable around someone who doesn't constantly need to be at the center. That comfort translates into trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. Magnetism isn't about pulling people toward you against their will. It's about creating an atmosphere where they naturally want to come closer. In a world that prizes visibility, choosing silent habits may feel like going against the grain. But true magnetism is not about being visible to everyone. It's about being unforgettable to the right people. The ones who matter, the ones you truly connect with, are not impressed by noise. They are moved by authenticity, by subtlety, by the unspoken qualities that reveal who you really are. And that's why silent habits, though less obvious, create a far deeper pull than anything loud ever could. Intentional presence makes people feel valued and seen. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but when you experience it, you realize how rare and powerful it is. Most of us live in a constant rush. We multitask, we check our phones, we let our minds drift even while someone else is speaking to us. And in doing so, we send an unspoken message. You're not important enough for my full attention. On the other hand, when someone looks directly at you, listens without interruption, and shows through their body language that nothing else matters in that moment, the experience is unforgettable. That is the essence of intentional presence. The act of giving someone your undivided self without distraction, without judgment, without agenda. At its core, presence is about respect. It tells the other person, you matter. What you're saying matters. I see you. In a world where people often feel invisible, overlooked, or dismissed, presence becomes a gift. You don't need grand gestures or elaborate words to make someone feel important. The very act of being fully there for them creates a magnetic connection. People don't always remember what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. Intentional presence makes people feel significant, and significance is a human need as vital as air or water. What makes intentional presence so powerful is that it goes against the current of modern life. We live in an era of constant notifications, relentless schedules, and endless distractions. The average attention span is shrinking, and most conversations today are half-lived. People nodding while scrolling on their phones or pretending to listen while preparing their next response. To break this cycle and offer full presence is to do something extraordinary. It's like standing still in the middle of a storm. Everyone else is rushing, but you are calm, grounded, attentive. That difference doesn't just get noticed, it gets felt. And people are drawn to those who can offer stillness in a noisy world. When you are intentionally present, you also gain something for yourself. Presence deepens your ability to connect, not just with others, but with yourself. It heightens your awareness. You notice subtleties in tone, expression, and energy that you would otherwise miss. You hear not just the words, but the emotions behind them. This allows you to understand people at a deeper level, which strengthens relationships and builds trust. Presence isn't passive, it's active engagement with the moment. It requires effort because your mind will always try to wander. But when you master it, you become magnetic because people feel truly understood in your company. And being understood is one of the most powerful forms of validation. Think about the leaders, mentors, or friends who had the greatest impact on you. Chances are they weren't the ones who gave the longest speeches or offered the flashiest advice. They were the ones who listened. They were the ones who leaned in, who gave you their full attention, who made you feel like you were the only person that mattered at that time. That feeling stays with you, sometimes for years. This is why intentional presence is a silent habit of magnetic people. They don't need to dominate conversations. They simply need to show up fully, and that is enough to create an unshakable bond. There is also a subtle but important distinction between being physically present and being intentionally present. You can sit across from someone and still not be with them. You can nod, smile, and pretend to listen while your mind is elsewhere, but people sense when your presence is hollow. Intentional presence, on the other hand, is about aligning your body, mind, and heart in one place. It is a conscious choice to block out everything else and invest yourself fully in the current interaction. This depth of attention creates authenticity, and authenticity draws people in more strongly than any performance ever could. Practicing intentional presence is not only about others, it also elevates your own influence. When you are fully present, you command respect without demanding it. You project stability, focus, and clarity. In a group setting, your attentiveness sets the tone. People naturally respond to it because it makes them feel respected, and respect is reciprocated. This creates a feedback loop where your presence elevates the energy of the room, and the room, in turn, reinforces your influence. Presence becomes not just a habit, but a form of leadership. It is worth noting that intentional presence requires humility. To be present, you must let go of the need to prove yourself or to always be the one speaking. You must be willing to step back and let others occupy the space. And yet, paradoxically, this humility makes you more magnetic. People don't feel overshadowed by you. They feel uplifted in your company. They associate you with a sense of belonging and importance, and that association becomes a bond that keeps drawing them towards you. Over time, intentional presence changes how people perceive you at a deeper level. You stop being just another face in the crowd and become the person they trust, the person they open up to, the person whose presence feels like a relief. And the best part is that this doesn't require any special talent, skill, or status. It requires a choice, the choice to give people the gift of your full self. Few people make this choice, which is why those who do appear magnetic. Calm confidence creates trust and reassurance without words. Unlike the kind of confidence that shouts, boasts, or demands recognition, calm confidence is subtle and steady. It doesn't need to announce itself because it is deeply rooted in self-awareness and inner security. When someone carries calm confidence, it radiates an energy that says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I don't need to prove it. This type of confidence is magnetic because it reassures others. People naturally gravitate toward those who seem grounded, who remain composed in situations where most would lose their balance. It creates an atmosphere of safety, and safety is one of the most attractive forces in human relationships. When you encounter someone who exudes calm confidence, you immediately sense it in the way they carry themselves. Their body language is open but not overbearing. Their tone of voice is steady, not rushed or defensive. Their reactions are measured, not impulsive. Even without saying much, they communicate strength. This is because confidence is not about volume or show, it's about presence. Calm confidence speaks in silence, in the way someone chooses not to overreact, in the way they let others speak without feeling threatened, in the way they handle challenges without letting panic dictate their choices. People feel safer around them because their steadiness signals reliability. In contrast, loud confidence often masks insecurity. People who constantly need to show off, interrupt, or dominate conversations are usually compensating for an inner lack. They create noise, but the noise doesn't create trust. It may grab temporary attention, but it rarely builds lasting influence. Calm confidence, however, doesn't rely on external validation. It doesn't need applause or recognition to feel complete. That's why it's so powerful. It comes from within, and when others sense it, they instinctively lean toward it. They trust it because it doesn't feel like a performance. It feels real. Trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationships, whether personal or professional. And calm confidence is one of the fastest ways to build it. Imagine being in a stressful situation where emotions run high and uncertainty fills the room. Most people will react with panic, frustration, or indecision. But then there is one person who stays calm, who speaks slowly, who weighs their words carefully, who doesn't let the atmosphere dictate their behavior. That person instantly becomes the anchor for everyone else. Even without consciously realizing it, people look to them for guidance. The calmness reassures them, and the confidence inspires them. This is the silent pull of magnetic individuals. They stabilize others simply by how they show up. Calm confidence also builds credibility. When you trust yourself, others trust you more easily. It's not about knowing all the answers, but about believing you can handle the unknown. People pick up on that belief through your actions, through the choices you make, and through the steadiness you project. Leaders who carry calm confidence don't need to declare themselves as leaders. Others naturally follow them. Friends and colleagues turn to them because their presence alone feels like a solution. This credibility doesn't come from talking about what you can do. It comes from consistently showing up in a way that proves you can be relied upon. What makes calm confidence so magnetic is that it spreads. Emotions are contagious, and when you stay composed, others catch that energy. They mirror it back. In chaotic moments, your steadiness becomes the anchor that keeps them from drifting. In ordinary moments, your quiet assurance becomes a comfort that allows them to relax. People are drawn to that because most of us are searching for stability, whether we admit it or not. Being around someone with calm confidence feels like taking a deep breath in a crowded room. It's refreshing, grounding, and rare. Cultivating calm confidence requires inner work. It is not about pretending to be strong. It's about building genuine resilience. This comes from knowing yourself deeply, accepting your strengths and weaknesses, and learning to trust your ability to navigate whatever comes your way. It grows through experience, reflection, and discipline. Each time you face difficulty and remain composed, your confidence strengthens. Each time you choose patience over reaction, your calmness deepens. Over time, these choices become habits, and the habits shape the aura you carry. Another important element of calm confidence is humility. It doesn't seek to overshadow others or prove superiority. Instead, it creates space for others to shine. That humility doesn't weaken the confidence, it amplifies it. Because when you're not competing for attention, people sense that you are secure in yourself. They respect that security because it signals strength. And when people respect you, they are naturally drawn toward you. That respect forms the basis of influence, an influence that doesn't need to shout because it is already felt. In every environment, at work, in relationships, in social interactions, calm confidence is the quiet force that changes dynamics. It shifts conversations, it diffuses tension, it inspires cooperation. It builds trust in a way that words alone cannot. And while loud confidence may demand attention, calm confidence earns it. People may forget what someone said in a moment of noise, but they will always remember the one person who stayed steady, who made them feel safe, and who carried assurance without arrogance. That memory is what makes calm confidence truly magnetic. Magnetism grows when you focus on being, not performing. This distinction is subtle but transformative. So often, people equate magnetism with performance. They think they have to put on a show, craft a persona, or constantly impress others to be noticed. They believe magnetism comes from doing more, saying more, and being more than what they are in the moment. But this pursuit of performance often backfires. It feels forced, inauthentic, and exhausting, both for the person trying to maintain it and for those around them. The truth is that the people who draw others in most naturally are not performers. They are simply themselves. They don't focus on impressing. They focus on embodying. They don't try to manipulate how others see them. They commit to living authentically and letting their presence speak for itself. Being is about alignment. It's about showing up as who you really are without the layers of pretense or the need for validation. When you're focused on being, you're not chasing attention because attention naturally flows toward authenticity. People may be entertained by a performance, but they are connected to authenticity. And human beings crave connection more than entertainment. When someone is real, unapologetically themselves, and comfortable in their skin, others feel safe around them. They sense the absence of masks, and that creates trust. This is why being is magnetic. It makes others feel at ease because there is no hidden agenda. Performing, on the other hand, often creates distance. When you're performing, you are more focused on yourself than on the connection. You are calculating how people are perceiving you, adjusting your words or actions to get approval, and trying to live up to an image. While this might draw temporary admiration, it rarely builds lasting magnetism. People may be impressed by the act, but they don't feel truly connected to the performer. Over time, this disconnect weakens influence because what people seek is sincerity. A performance might dazzle, but sincerity sticks. When you focus on being instead of performing, you give yourself permission to be present. You don't have to constantly monitor yourself or manage others' perceptions. That freedom allows you to actually listen, engage, and contribute meaningfully. Ironically, this creates a stronger impression than trying to perform ever could. People remember how comfortable they felt in your presence, how real the conversation was, and how much they could trust you. And trust is the essence of magnetism. It keeps people coming back even long after the initial interaction. Consider how we respond to different types of people. Someone who tries too hard to be interesting often comes across as insincere or overwhelming. But someone who is genuinely interested, who listens deeply, who shows curiosity, who shares themselves without pretense, creates a natural attraction. They aren't trying to perform. They are simply being present and engaged. This shift from trying to be interesting to simply being authentic changes the entire dynamic. It shows that you don't need to be the loudest, funniest, or most polished person in the room to be magnetic. You need only to be real. Another dimension of being overperforming is self-acceptance. When you accept yourself fully, flaws and all, you no longer feel the pressure to cover up or compensate. That self-acceptance radiates outward, and people feel it. They are drawn to it because it gives them permission to relax into their own imperfections. This is part of why authenticity is so attractive. It's liberating. People who are focused on performing often make others feel like they too need to perform. But people who are focused on being create an environment where others feel safe to be themselves. That comfort creates an invisible bond, a magnetism rooted in genuine connection. Being also requires courage. It means risking disapproval, because not everyone will like the real you. But that's the point. Magnetism isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about attracting the right people. When you perform, you might gain broad but shallow attention. When you gain fewer but deeper connections. And those deeper connections are the ones that last, the ones that carry influence, the ones that matter. The paradox is that the less you try to impress, the more magnetic you become. People admire the courage it takes to be genuine in a world full of performances. This doesn't mean that performance has no place. There are moments in life where we need to present ourselves well, to communicate effectively, or to highlight our strengths. But magnetism isn't built on occasional performances. It's built on consistent being. It's the everyday authenticity that makes someone magnetic, not the rare moments of charm. When the performance ends, the question is always what remains. If you've been performing, what remains is emptiness. If you've been being, what remains is presence. And presence is unforgettable. Focusing on being rather than performing also shifts your energy inward. Instead of spending energy trying to manage how others see you, you invest energy into aligning with who you are. That inner alignment radiates outward naturally. People can sense when you are centered, when you are comfortable in your skin, when you are not chasing approval. That ease is magnetic because it contrasts so sharply with the constant striving that most people experience. In your presence, they feel relief. And relief is a powerful pull. When all is said and done, magnetism is not about putting on a show. It's about living in a way that doesn't require one. People are drawn to authenticity, consistency, and presence. They are drawn to those who focus on being instead of performing. Because while performance may win applause, being wins hearts. And it is hearts, not claps, that create lasting influence. Quiet strength draws people in more powerfully than attention seeking. At first, this may seem contradictory because we often assume that being noticed requires being loud, visible, and constantly at the center of things, but real magnetism doesn't work that way. The individuals who leave the deepest impressions are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who stand the firmest. Their power doesn't come from demanding eyes and ears. It comes from embodying a strength that others feel without needing it to be declared. Quiet strength is subtle, but it carries weight. It whispers in a way that echoes far longer than the noise of attention-seeking ever could. Quiet strength begins with self-assurance. It is rooted in the deep understanding that worth doesn't need to be proven through external approval. People who possess quiet strength don't need to remind the world of their value because they live it. They don't scramble to be seen because their presence naturally gets noticed. This is because strength that is quiet communicates confidence without arrogance, power without intimidation, and resilience without resistance. It tells others, I know who I am, and I don't need to convince you. That certainty becomes magnetic because certainty is rare. Most people are still chasing validation while the quietly strong stand unshaken. Attention-seeking, in contrast, is often fleeting and fragile. It relies on external recognition to exist, the applause, the likes, the spotlight. These things sustain it temporarily, but once they fade, so does the sense of worth that came with them. That's why attention-seeking requires constant effort. It's exhausting and it's transparent. Others can feel when someone is striving too hard to be noticed. Instead of being drawn to it, they often feel pushed away. Quiet strength, however, requires no such maintenance. It doesn't burn out because it isn't fueled by outside approval. It's self-sustaining, and that makes it dependable. Dependability is magnetic because people crave stability in an unpredictable world. Think about someone you've met who radiated calm power. They didn't have to raise their voice, dominate conversations, or make dramatic gestures. Yet when they entered the room, people paid attention, not because they demanded it, but because they carried themselves in a way that spoke volumes. Perhaps it was the steadiness of their posture, the confidence in their silence, or the way they listened without rushing to respond. That kind of quiet strength creates a gravity that pulls people closer. It doesn't need to compete with noise. It simply exists, and its existence is enough. Quiet strength is also deeply connected to resilience. Life inevitably brings challenges, setbacks, and moments of pressure. Those who respond with loud panic or desperate attention, seeking often amplify the chaos. But those who embody quiet strength do the opposite. They remain composed, grounded, and deliberate. Their steadiness becomes an anchor for others. People are drawn to that because it provides reassurance. In the presence of quiet strength, others feel safe. They feel that things will be okay even when circumstances are uncertain. That reassurance is far more magnetic than any display designed to impress. Another reason quiet strength is so compelling is that it creates space for others. Attention-seeking often overshadows those around it, leaving little room for others to feel seen. But quiet strength doesn't compete, it invites. It allows others to step into their own confidence without feeling threatened. This generosity of presence makes people want to be around it because it uplifts rather than diminishes. It's the difference between a flame that burns others in its attempt to shine and a steady fire that warms everyone who comes close. People gravitate toward the warmth of quiet strength because it nurtures rather than demands. Practicing quiet strength requires discipline and patience. It is not about suppressing emotions or pretending to be unaffected by challenges. Rather, it's about choosing not to let emotions control you. It's about recognizing your power, but using it with restraint. It's about speaking when it adds value and remaining silent when silence speaks louder. That restraint is what gives quiet strength its impact. Words carry more weight when they are not wasted. Actions speak louder when they are not accompanied by constant self-promotion. This is why people with quiet strength are remembered, not because they constantly sought recognition, but because when they did speak or act, it mattered. In every interaction, quiet strength communicates something attention-seeking cannot. Stability. Stability is magnetic because it is scarce. Most people live in a state of distraction, restlessness, and craving. When they encounter someone who doesn't chase, who doesn't perform, who doesn't crumble under pressure, it feels different. It feels like gravity. That gravitational pull doesn't need to be explained or justified. It is simply felt. And once people feel it, they don't forget it. Ultimately, quiet strength is about embodying influence rather than chasing it. It doesn't demand the spotlight, yet it often becomes the center of gravity in any space. People remember how it made them feel calm, steady, reassured, and that memory draws them back again and again. Attention-seeking might earn glances, but quiet strength earns loyalty. One is temporary, the other is lasting. And in the end, the strongest form of magnetism is the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. It simply stands steady and silent and lets the world lean closer on its own. When you look at what truly makes a person magnetic, it's never the noise, the show, or the constant effort to be seen. It's the quiet, often invisible habits that shape how others feel in your presence. Magnetism is built in the moments when you choose to be present instead of distracted, when you carry calm confidence instead of chasing approval, when you focus on being rather than performing, and when you let quiet strength speak louder than attention-seeking ever could. These habits don't demand recognition, but they earn it. They don't push people toward you, but they pull them naturally. The truth is, everyone is capable of cultivating this kind of magnetism. It doesn't require special talent, status, or even a loud personality. It requires awareness, discipline, and authenticity. It requires the courage to stop seeking attention and start offering presence, stability, and sincerity. When you embody these silent habits, you don't just attract people. You inspire them, you reassure them, and you leave a lasting impact that far outlives the moment. Real magnetism is not about how much attention you get. It's about how deeply you connect, how strongly you're remembered, and how effortlessly others are drawn to the energy you create. And when you live this way, you'll discover that the most powerful presence is the one that doesn't have to ask for attention at all.